Well, hello everybody. It's been a really long time since I've made a video. It's because I'm in the hospital. I've been in the hospital since March 29th. It has been a long stay. I believe it is it's April. Oh my gosh. I think it's April 25th. So I've almost been in the hospital for a month now. Here's how we slowly got to the hospital. For the 2 months following up to the hospital, I had this sensation in my stomach that I had a full turkey dinner in there, and someone would come up and be like, "Here, Chelsea, eat something," and I was like, I am so full, I can't eat something. I feel like I have a full turkey dinner, but I hadn't eaten anything. But I felt so full, and so every time I tried to eat, it felt like I was force feeding myself. Like I couldn't eat anything. So I would have maybe for breakfast a small cup of baby food, and then like a small cup of mashed potatoes, and then a small cup of ice cream, and those amounts were getting smaller and smaller and smaller for 2 months. We had infusions going at home, and those were going good. But finally one day I woke up with a fever and I felt absolutely miserable, and we had to go to the hospital because I was like, something's really wrong. We went to the hospital, and I think we sat in the waiting room for 4 hours, and then we got back into the room and we waited how many more hours to see a doctor. And then they were like, we don't have any beds here, so then they had to transport me to another hospital. And finally, after some scans and everything, they found that I had an ileus. They originally thought it was a bowel obstruction possibly, but it was an ileus, which means my intestines were paralyzed. But they don't know if this is the full cause of everything at this point now. We'll get there. I'll get to the story. I had an ileus, paralyzed intestines. And they also thought I had a UTI from my urine culture. Turned out I had a yeast infection. And then because of the ileus, you can't really eat anything, and so they're like, you're on liquids only. Well, the liquids, because of my mast cell activation syndrome, was very limited, so I was basically down to apple juice and water. But then towards the end of that wasn't even staying down at all either. At this hospital, it was really hard to get the help I needed, and so we had to call my complex care doctor to talk to their doctors there for some help. And then at one point they decided to pull my IV, like an IV saline, and that was just like, how am I supposed to get any nutrition and stuff if I'm barely getting the liquids in that I need? And then they finally brought the GI doctor in, and I was like, I need help, I need nutrition, I'm losing weight. Finally, they weighed me, and I found out, trigger warning, I will be talking about weight. I lost 30 pounds in 2 months. 30 pounds in 2 months. And the doctor said to me when I was like, what is the next step here? I am malnourished now, because then they had to replace magnesium, potassium, all of these different levels were so low. Phosphate, there was all of these electrolytes out of balance, my bun level was low, all of these other things were low. I was malnourished at this point now. And then they took the IV, my IV out. They kept saying, okay, you're good to go, you're good to go, you're good to go. Like every day it was like, I think you're good to go home. And it's like, no, we're not good to go home. Talk to the GI doctor. Well, I only give feeding tubes to people under 100 pounds. You know, and I was like, malnutrition can happen at any weight. So you wait for the people to get under 100 pounds before you do feeding tubes? It was a weird discussion, and at that point, we kept trying to get liquids in, and then the liquids were coming up. We couldn't do an endoscopy because of the ileus. We couldn't do any scans. We couldn't do certain things. We couldn't put a feeding tube until the ileus was healed. So we had to sit and wait for that to sort of heal itself up before we could even consider a feeding tube. Once the ileus passed, then it was like, okay, now we can get this feeding tube in. We got the feeding tube in, and they decided to do an NJ because my stomach wasn't handling anything. Got the NJ in, and about 2 days later, they gave me the boot out of the hospital. Once they got the rate up to where they wanted it, sent me out, which was really fast. Well, as they were giving me the boot out of the hospital discharge, I started to feel like a little feverish, and I was like, wasn't gonna say anything because I was like, oh, I'm just tired from, not sleeping very well here. And then I got to the doorway of my house, and trigger warning about if you get squeamish about being sick. As soon as I got to my doorway, I started profusely vomiting up bile, just projectile vomiting bile. It just would not stop. But the moment I got home, Mom says, I have a surprise for you. The garage door opened, and I finally got my ramp. My ramp was finally there. So I got to wheel up my ramp my one time. I got home, and they were trying to teach us how to use the pump and everything. And as that was happening, bile was coming out of my mouth and out the other end profusely, and it was just going and going. We had to call 911. Took me back to the hospital. That hospital was full. I sat for, I think, 11 hours, and they brought me to the hospital I am at now, where I found out I had picked up neurovirus at the last hospital. I got here, and they're like, you are very complex. We are only going to treat the symptoms of neurovirus, and we're going to get you home. We'll get you home, because I was at the other hospital for 11 days. Get past the symptoms of neurovirus, and we have these new problems where I can handle the feed. We got back to slowly handling the feeds, but we had to bring down the rate all the way back down and get the rate slowly back up because I wasn't handling it. We got back to handling the feed, and then I wasn't handling the water flushes. Every time the water flushes would come, I would dry heave almost off the bed, like every time it would hit, and it was really fast. Every time they would give me my meds through bolus, I would dry heave so bad, and it wasn't gagging like in my throat. It would hit here, and it would just be like, ugh. And it was so bad. My rib cages feel bruised. Finally, we figured out a medication where I have to take 2 meds, wait 45 minutes, let those settle, and then I can get my medications in. But if it's not timed within 45 minutes of those 2 meds, I cannot get my regular meds in, which is absolutely horrible that we have to do that. So overnight, I usually refuse any meds because I can't get them in without having to retch and retch and retch. But now the problem comes into play that I'm having this horrible pain in my stomach, and it is the worst pain I've ever had. And it's like every time I need to go to the bathroom, I am wrapping my arms around my stomach with a pillow. I am shaking, I am sweating, and it is like level 10 pain, screaming sometimes, shaking, and it's just like the worst pain I have ever experienced. And then sometimes I go to the bathroom and I think I'm going 1 and it's 2, and sometimes a 2 or a 1. I don't know what's coming out. I have no control over it. So at one point, the doctor was like, well, what do your Facebook people say? And that got really difficult for a bit. And it was a lot of pressure on me when he was asking me, what do your Facebook people say? Which was, my mom had to come in and crack the whip and be like, that is not inappropriate. That is so inappropriate to expect me to come up with some answers here. But I think we're finally turning a corner. It's just trying to figure out how to get all of this home, how to get this regiment home, because we still have some IV meds I'm depending on. Even though I have a PICC line, they're trying to get it all through. Oh, excuse me. They're trying to get this all managed because there's so many medications right now managing everything. Now, the unit I'm in here at the hospital is actually called progressive care. It's a step down from ICU because I have so many things going on. I'll show you the room. Don't know if it's bright enough for you. Let me see if I can turn a little bit more light on. There we go. I hope this hasn't been too dark for you. So this is a nice sized room, as you can see. Ta-da! That's my room. So it would go ICU, progressive care, and then, you know, the normal. Why is that beeping? Hold on. I'm gonna put my headphones on real quick so it's not so bothersome. Yeah, so I didn't realize that I was in progressive care, meaning I needed a little bit more help than the average Joe. But I guess that's where I am at my stage of my chronic illness, I guess. Okay, the beeping stopped. Yeah. Because of all of this, I was supposed to be having my hysterectomy on May 4th. That's clearly not happening, which is utterly devastating. Because of that, all this Johns Hopkins thing is scrambled. So there's a lot of things that have just been messed up because of this. I was supposed to be Fashion Week ambassador. That starts on the 28th of April. I don't know if I'll be out by then. So there's a lot of things that have just been, this is a big hiccup. I don't know how long I'll have this tube in for. We've been making doctor's appointments on the outside and having to cancel them because every time we think we're getting out, something happens. I've had multiple mast cell reactions in this hospital and the other hospital. I've had multiple staph attacks in this hospital and the other hospital. So they've been documented. But I've definitely learned new medications that I definitely cannot have. So yeah, that's just a little update for now. I don't have much more energy to keep talking right now, but I just wanted to fill you in because it's been a while and it's been quiet, and I just wanted to say I love you all, I miss you all, I hope you all are well, and I'm sending you spoons and love. Peace, love, and Cookie Monster.